The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its vaulted ceiling lost in artificial stars that mimicked the home worlds of 47 different species. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the defendant's podium, her small human frame dwarfed by the towering alien representatives who had gathered to pronounce judgment on her species. The human delegation will hear the verdict of this council, announced Chancellor Vextar, his crystalline form pulsing with disapproval. The Zephyrian's voice resonated through translation matrices, reaching every corner of the vast chamber. After careful deliberation spanning 3 cycles, we have reached a unanimous decision. Sarah's hands remained steady on the podium, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Behind her, the dozen other human representatives sat in silence. Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, and military leaders had spent 2 years trying to convince the galaxy's ruling body that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The species known as humans, Chancellor Vextar continued, are hereby found guilty of excessive aggression, territorial at containing a perceived threat. The Council's investigation has revealed disturbing patterns, added Councillor Thranks, her insectoid mandibles clicking with each word. In your brief 300-year period of industrial development, your species has engaged in over 2,000 armed conflicts. Your historical records speak of weapons capable of destroying entire planets, and your literature glorifies violence and conquest. Sarah finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Honored council members, humanity acknowledges our turbulent past. But we've also shown capacity for growth, for cooperation, for protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Our history includes wars, yes, but also acts of incredible sacrifice for strangers, for ideals, for the future of our children. Irrelevant, boomed Commander Gorthake, the massive reptilian saurian whose species controlled the galaxy's military forces. Your warriors speak of acceptable losses and necessary sacrifices. Such concepts are antithetical to civilized society. The harmony protocols exist to prevent the very chaos your species represents. What you call chaos, we call adaptability, Sarah replied. When we first made contact with your survey ships, humanity was confined to a single world. Within 50 years, we had established colonies on 17 different planets. We adapted to environments that would kill most species here. We thrived where others saw only barren rock and poisonous atmosphere. Precisely the problem, Vextar's crystal form flared brighter. The Harmony protocols establish careful guidelines for expansion. Each species is allocated specific sectors based on their biological needs and population requirements. Humans ignore these boundaries, settling wherever they please, terraforming worlds that were designated as neutral zones. The human ambassador's aide, Dr. Marcus Webb, stood and activated a holographic display. If I may present evidence to the contrary, Chancellor. Human expansion has consistently avoided worlds claimed by other species. We've settled primarily on planets deemed uninhabitable by Council surveys. Our terraforming efforts have actually created habitable worlds where none existed before. Creating worlds for conquest, Councillor Thranks clicked dismissively. Your own military doctrine speaks of strategic depth and defensive perimeters. These are not the words of a peaceful species. They're the words of a species that has learned from hard experience, Sarah shot back. We've faced extinction events before. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, plagues. We prepare for threats because we've survived them. What you call aggression, we call prudent planning. The chamber fell silent as Chancellor Vextar consulted with his fellow council members through rapid light pulse communications. Finally, he addressed the humans once more. This council has heard enough. The human species represents a fundamental incompatibility with galactic civilization. Your concepts of individual achievement, competitive advancement, and technological innovation disrupt the careful balance we have maintained for over 10,000 years. You punish us for succeeding, Dr. Webb said quietly, but his words carried through the chamber's perfect acoustics. Every species here has found their place in the galactic order. You explore specific territories, exploit certain resources, contribute to the overall harmony. Humanity refuses to be limited in the same way. Which is precisely why you cannot be permitted to remain, Commander Gorthake rumbled. The Saurian Empire has observed your military development with growing concern. In 2 centuries of galactic membership, you've advanced from chemical propulsion to quantum tunneling drives. Your weapons technology has progressed from kinetic projectiles to matter disruptors. This rate of advancement threatens the established order. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. What exactly are you proposing, Commander? The verdict is exile, Chancellor Vextar announced formally. Humanity will be barred from all galactic territories, trade routes, and communication networks. Your species will be confined to systems beyond the Outer Rim, in the region designated as the Void. All diplomatic relations are hereby severed. Any human ship found in Council space will be destroyed without warning. You're sentencing our entire species to slow death, Sarah said, her diplomatic composure finally cracking. The Void contains nothing but dead systems, failed stars, and cosmic debris. There are no habitable worlds, no resources for trade, no possibility of growth. Then perhaps you should have considered that before pursuing your aggressive expansion, Counselor Threnks replied coldly. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his face pale but determined. Council members, I submit that you're making a grave error. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to survive in impossible circumstances. You think you're eliminating a threat, but you're actually creating something far more dangerous. Empty threats will not change this verdict, Vextar responded. Not threats. Historical precedent. Webb activated his hologram again, displaying images from Earth's past. When the Roman Empire exiled its enemies to the frontier, those exiles became the barbarian tribes that eventually conquered Rome. When European powers transported criminals to hostile continents, those continents became thriving nations that challenged the old order. Humanity doesn't simply survive exile. We use it to become stronger. Commander Gorthake's massive form shifted, and Sarah caught a flicker of uncertainty in his reptilian eyes. The Void will contain you. There is nothing there to build upon, nothing to conquer, nothing to threaten us with. You underestimate us, Sarah said simply. But that's fine. We've been underestimated before. The formal pronouncement took another hour, with specific coordinates marking the boundaries of humanity's exile. The Void stretched beyond the galaxy's spiral arms, a region of space containing failed star systems, rogue planets, and the debris of ancient cosmic catastrophes. No known intelligent life had ever emerged from that emptiness. Most species considered it uninhabitable, suitable only as a cosmic graveyard. As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, Ambassador Chen took one last look at the assembled aliens. Their satisfaction was evident across dozens of different physiological expressions. They believed they had solved their human problem permanently. 3 months later, the last human ships departed Council space under heavy escort. Massive Saurian dreadnoughts ensured that the exodus proceeded according to the prescribed timeline. Nearly 12 billion humans were forced to abandon established colonies, trading posts, and research stations. The fleet that limped toward the Void carried the remnants of humanity's interstellar civilization. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the lead vessel, the heavy cruiser New Horizon. Her ship had been designed for exploration and combat, but now it served as a refugee transport carrying 50,000 souls toward an uncertain future. The bridge crew worked in grim silence as star charts displayed their destination, a region of space that hadn't been properly surveyed in over a millennium. Final transmission from Council space, Captain, reported Communications Officer Park. They're ordering all human ships to proceed directly to designated coordinates without deviation. Any attempt to establish settlements in transitional systems will be met with immediate military response. Acknowledged. Rodriguez stared at the tactical display showing the massive Saurian fleet maintaining formation around the human exodus. Hundreds of alien warships ensured that humanity's departure would be absolute and permanent. Set course for the Void. Maximum sustainable velocity. The journey took 8 months. As the human fleet traveled deeper into unexplored space, the familiar stars of the galactic core faded behind them. Ahead lay only darkness punctuated by the occasional failed star or rogue planet tumbling through empty space. Long-range sensors detected ancient debris fields, the remnants of cosmic catastrophes that had occurred billions of years ago. "This is what they've given us," muttered Chief Engineer Harrison as he studied the sensor readings. "A cosmic wasteland. No stable stars, no habitable worlds, no resources worth mining. They expect us to die quietly out here." "Maybe that's exactly what they want," Rodriguez replied. "But we're not going to give them the satisfaction." The fleet's first major discovery came 6 months into their exile. Deep in the void, sensors detected something that shouldn't have existed, a massive artificial structure orbiting a dying red dwarf star. The construction was clearly alien but didn't match any known galactic architecture. "Captain, you need to see this," called Science Officer Chen, no relation to the former ambassador. "We're detecting massive energy signatures from that structure. It's not just a derelict. Something's still active inside." Rodriguez joined the science team at their stations. The holographic display showed a structure that dwarfed even the largest human space stations. Kilometers of twisted metal and unknown alloys formed a complex that could have housed millions of inhabitants. "Any signs of current occupation?" she asked. "Negative. But the power signatures suggest automated systems are still operational." "Captain, this thing has been here for a very long time. Preliminary dating suggests it's older than recorded galactic civilization." The discovery changed everything. As exploration teams began investigating the ancient structure, they uncovered technology that surpassed anything in known space. The builders had mastered forms of energy manipulation that seemed almost magical by current standards. Gravitational engineering, matter conversion, and space-time manipulation were commonplace in their designs. More importantly, the structure wasn't alone. As human survey ships spread throughout the void, they discovered dozens of similar installations. Some were damaged beyond repair, but others maintained operational systems waiting for someone with sufficient technical knowledge to activate them. "It's like a treasure vault," reported Admiral Chen during the fleet's first major conference call. She had been elected as overall commander of the human exodus, coordinating between the various colony ships and exploration vessels. The previous inhabitants of this region achieved a level of technology that makes Council science look primitive. Captain Rodriguez nodded from her position aboard the New Horizon. "The question is, who were they and what happened to them?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the expedition's lead archaeologist, provided the answer 3 weeks later. Her team had successfully accessed the central database of the largest structure, translating fragments of the ancient records. "They called themselves the Architects," she announced during the morning briefing. "From what we can determine, they reached the peak of galactic civilization roughly 50,000 years ago. Their technology allowed them to reshape entire star systems, create artificial worlds, and manipulate the fundamental forces of physics." "What happened to them?" asked Admiral Chen. "War." Tanaka's expression was grim. "They fought against something called the Collective, an alliance of species that viewed the Architects' advancement as a threat to natural order. The parallels to our current situation are disturbing. The historical records painted a clear picture. The Architects had been the most advanced species in the galaxy, pursuing technological development and expansion without regard for established political boundaries. Other species had united against them, eventually driving them to this remote region of space. The Collective won their war," Tanaka continued. "They destroyed Architect worlds, eliminated their population, and established the predecessor to the current Galactic Council. The Harmony protocols we're so familiar with were originally designed to prevent another species from achieving Architect-level advancement. So the Council has done this before," Rodriguez said quietly. "They identify species with too much potential and eliminate them before they can challenge the established order." "It appears so. But here's the interesting part. Tanaka activated a new display showing technical specifications. The architects saw their defeat coming. They spent their final years creating these installations as a legacy for whoever came after them. They believed that any species forced into the same exile would possess the determination and adaptability necessary to use their technology properly. Admiral Chen studied the specifications with growing excitement. These systems could revolutionize human civilization. The energy production alone would make us independent of any galactic trade networks. More than that, Dr. Harrison added from the engineering station. The gravitational manipulation technology could let us create habitable worlds from asteroid debris. We wouldn't need to find existing planets. We could build our own. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Humanity had been exiled to what the Council considered a cosmic wasteland. But that wasteland contained the abandoned infrastructure of a civilization that had once challenged the galaxy's most powerful alliance. How long would it take to activate these systems? Rodriguez asked. With our current understanding, probably decades, Harrison admitted. But the architects were excellent teachers. Their databases contain detailed instructions for operating every system. And some of the installations contain automated manufacturing facilities that could accelerate our technological development exponentially. Admiral Chen made the decision that would define humanity's future. We're not going home. We're not begging the Council for readmission to galactic society. We're going to build something new out here. Something that will make them regret exiling us in the first place. The transformation began immediately. Human colony ships dispersed throughout the void, establishing bases near the most promising architect installations. Engineering teams worked around the clock to understand and activate ancient systems. Scientists studied technologies that had been theoretical concepts just months before. The first success came 18 months after humanity's arrival in the void. Engineers aboard the science vessel Discovery successfully activated an architect manufacturing facility, watching in amazement as automated systems began producing components for advanced gravitational manipulators. It's working, reported Dr. Harrison during the fleet-wide broadcast. The facility is producing technology that's centuries beyond our current capabilities. We're essentially skipping multiple stages of technological development. But the real breakthrough came 2 years later, when human scientists successfully activated an architect world builder. The massive device used gravitational manipulation to collect asteroid debris and cosmic dust, compressing and shaping the material into a planetary core. Advanced atmospheric processors began creating breathable environments around the newly formed worlds. Captain Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as humanity's first artificial world took shape. The planet grew from scattered debris to a sphere nearly the size of Earth, complete with oceans, continents, and a protective atmosphere. The Council wanted to exile us to empty space, she said to her crew. Instead, they've given us the tools to become something beyond their comprehension. The news of humanity's progress would have terrified the Galactic Council, but no communication was possible across the vast distance to inhabited space. The Council had made sure that humanity's exile was complete and permanent. They had no idea what was happening in the region they considered a cosmic wasteland. As more architect facilities came online, human civilization began expanding at an unprecedented rate. Artificial worlds provided living space for billions of people. Advanced manufacturing systems produced fleets of ships incorporating technology that surpassed anything in Council space. Most importantly, human scientists began improving on architect designs, adding innovations that the ancient builders had never considered. We're not just copying their technology, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, now head of the Human Research Council. We're making it better. The architects were brilliant, but they were also limited by their own assumptions. Human creativity is filling in gaps they never knew existed. The breakthrough that changed everything came 5 years after the exile. Human scientists successfully activated an architect quantum communication array, a device capable of transmitting messages across galactic distances instantaneously. More importantly, the array could penetrate the communication blackout that the Council had imposed on the void. "Admiral, we're receiving signals," reported Communications Officer Park, now serving aboard the newly constructed command station Defiance. "Multiple sources, all from beyond Council space. It appears we're not the only species they've exiled." Admiral Chen joined Park at the communication station, studying the incoming data streams. "How many?" "Dozens. Maybe hundreds. There are entire civilizations out here in the dark, species that challenged the Council at different points in history and were forced into exile." Park's excitement was evident. "Admiral, we're looking at the foundation of an alternative galactic civilization." The communications revealed a hidden history that the Galactic Council had spent millennia trying to suppress. Species after species had been exiled for th. By the third disappearance, the Galactic Council recognized they were facing something unprecedented. "The Lost Patrols were all investigating the same region," reported Commander Gorthay K during the Emergency Council session. "The boundary zone between our space and the void. Whatever destroyed them is operating from within the exile region." Chancellor Vextar's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports confirmed that the human exile was successful. Their primitive ships could barely survive the journey to the void, let alone pose a threat to our military forces. Perhaps one of the other exiled species has developed aggressive capabilities," suggested Councillor Thranks. The historical records mention several civilizations that were banished for military threats. "All of them were centuries ago," Gorthay K rumbled. "Long enough for any surviving populations to have died out or descended into barbarism. The void contains no resources to support advanced civilization. The fourth patrol to disappear changed everything. This time, the squadron's flagship managed to transmit a brief message before going silent. The recording was fragmentary, distorted by interference that Council technicians had never encountered before. Unknown contacts approaching, energy signatures unlike anything in our databases, they're moving faster than our sensors can track, requesting immediate backup, wait, they're hailing us, the transmission is in human languages. The recording ended with what sounded like weapons fire, but the energy signatures were impossible to analyze. Whatever had destroyed the Council ships used technology that didn't match any known galactic civilization. "Humans," Chancellor Vextar spoke the word like a curse. "Somehow they've survived in the void and developed military capabilities." "Impossible," Commander Gorthay K repeated, but his certainty was wavering. "Even if they survived, they had no access to advanced materials or manufacturing facilities. Their technology was already inferior when we exiled them." Dr. Val Nash, the Council's chief scientist, activated a holographic display showing the patrol routes and disappearance sites. Analysis of the debris pattern suggests the use of gravitational weapons. The ships weren't simply destroyed, they were torn apart by controlled gravitational fields. Such technology is theoretical even for our most advanced research programs. Are you suggesting that humanity developed gravitational manipulation in less than 8 years? Vextar's incredulous tone carried clearly through his translation matrix. "I'm suggesting that something in the void has access to technology we don't understand," Valnash replied carefully. "Whether that's human development or discovery of ancient artifacts, the result is the same. We're facing weapons that our current defenses cannot counter." The Council's response was swift but ultimately inadequate. They dispatched a battle fleet to investigate the disappearances, confident that superior numbers would overcome whatever primitive threat the exiles might have assembled. Admiral Korthval commanded the expedition from his flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Harmony. His fleet included 200 warships representing the military might of 6 different species. It was the largest force the Council had assembled since the last major interspecies conflict 3 centuries earlier. "Maintain combat formation as we approach the boundary zone," Korthval ordered. "Sensors at maximum range, weapons charged and ready. We're dealing with an unknown threat that has already proven capable of destroying our patrol vessels." The fleet entered the void's outer regions with all appropriate cautions. Long-range scanners swept the darkness ahead, searching for signs of hostile activity. For 3 days, they encountered nothing but empty space and cosmic debris. The attack came without warning. One moment, the Council fleet was proceeding in perfect formation through apparently empty space. The next, reality seemed to tear apart around them. Massive gravitational distortions appeared throughout the fleet, twisting spacetime into impossible geometries. Ships that had been kilometers apart suddenly found themselves occupying the same physical space, their hulls merging in catastrophic collisions. All ships, emergency evasion. Korthval shouted over the communications chaos. We're under attack by unknown forces using gravitational weapons. But evasion was impossible. The gravitational distortions followed the fleeing ships, adapting to their movements with impossible precision. Massive dreadnoughts that had dominated galactic conflicts for centuries were twisted into scrap metal by forces that treated three-dimensional space like malleable clay. Through the chaos, Korthval caught glimpses of the attackers. Ships unlike anything in Council databases emerged from what appeared to be folded spacetime. Their hulls gleamed with unknown alloys, and their very presence seemed to distort reality around them. Most disturbing of all, the ships bore markings that were unmistakably human in origin. "This is Admiral Korthval of the Galactic Council Defense Force," he transmitted on all frequencies. "We demand that you identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came in perfect galactic standard, spoken with a distinctly human accent. "Admiral, this is Fleet Commander Elena Rodriguez of the Exile Alliance Navy. You are trespassing in sovereign territory. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will consider this an act of war." "You have no authority here," Korthval replied, even as more of his ships were torn apart by gravitational weapons. This region was designated as an exile zone by the authority of the Galactic Council. "You are criminals and outcasts with no legal standing." "We were criminals and outcasts," Rodriguez's voice carried a note of cold satisfaction. "Now we're something else entirely. Last warning, Admiral. Withdraw your forces." Korthval looked around his bridge at the tactical displays showing the systematic destruction of his fleet. Whatever technology the exiles had discovered, it made traditional naval tactics obsolete. Ships that had never known defeat were being dismantled like children's toys. "All units, emergency withdrawal," he ordered through gritted teeth. "Fall back to the border zone immediately." Only 37 ships from the original fleet of 200 made it back to Council space. The survivors brought with them sensor readings and tactical data that challenged every assumption about exile capabilities. "They're using gravitational manipulation on a scale we considered impossible," Dr. Velnash reported to the Emergency Council session. "The energy requirements alone should exceed the output of entire star systems. Yet somehow they're powering dozens of ships with this technology. How?" Chancellor Vextar demanded. "Where did they acquire such capabilities?" "Unknown. But analysis of the debris pattern suggests they're not just using gravitational weapons. They're manipulating spacetime itself, creating localized distortions that allow rapid movement across vast distances. Their ships can essentially teleport from one location to another." Commander Gorthake studied the tactical data with growing alarm. "If these readings are accurate, traditional space warfare has become obsolete. Our ships cannot compete with forces that can ignore conventional physics." "There's more," Velnash continued reluctantly. "Spectral analysis of their ship hulls suggests the use of materials that don't exist in our periodic table. They've discovered or created elements with properties that our science considers impossible." The implications were staggering. Humanity had not simply survived their exile, they had somehow transcended the technological limitations that defined galactic civilization. The species that the Council had dismissed as primitive warmongers had returned with capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. "We need intelligence," Vextar decided. "Deploy stealth reconnaissance to gather more information about their capabilities and intentions." The stealth missions revealed the magnitude of the Council's mistake. Hidden throughout the void, advanced sensors detected massive construction projects that dwarfed anything in known space. Artificial worlds orbited newly created stars. Mining operations stripped entire asteroid belts for raw materials. Most disturbing of all, fleet yards produced ships incorporating technology that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. "They're not just surviving," reported Intelligence Director Malthor during his classified briefing. "They're building a civilization that surpasses our own in every measurable category." Population estimates suggest they've grown from 12 billion exiles to over 200 billion inhabitants across dozens of worlds. In 8 years? Gorthake's disbelief was evident. Impossible population growth. "Not if you consider that they're not limited to natural reproduction," Malthor replied grimly. "We detected facilities that appear to be producing artificial life forms. Not clones or robots, but entirely new forms of existence that combine biological and technological elements." The intelligence reports painted a picture of a civilization that had abandoned conventional limitations. Human scientists had discovered ways to accelerate evolution, to merge organic life with advanced technology, and to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. "They're calling themselves the Exile Alliance," Malthor continued. "Our reconnaissance suggests they've made contact with every species we've exiled over the past 5,000 years. Dozens of different civilizations, all united under human leadership." Leadership? Vextar's crystal form flared with indignation. Humans cannot lead a galactic alliance. They lack the wisdom and restraint necessary for such responsibility. Apparently, the other exile species disagree. Intelligence suggests that humanity's unique adaptability and technological innovation have made them natural leaders of the alliance. They've provided technologies and strategies that have elevated every member civilization. The full scope of the threat became clear 6 months later when the Exile Alliance made their formal announcement. The message was broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in Council space, transmitted through communication networks that the Council's best technicians had considered absolutely secure. Fleet Commander Rodriguez appeared on every screen in galactic civilization, her image crisp and clear despite the vast distances involved. She wore a uniform that incorporated design elements from dozens of different species, symbolizing the unity of the Exile Alliance. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. 8 years ago, your leaders exiled humanity to the void beyond the galaxy's edge. They claimed we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to challenge the established order. The transmission included tactical displays showing the recent destruction of Council fleets, along with detailed specifications for gravitational weapons and space-time manipulation technology. Your leaders were correct. We are dangerous to the established order. We have spent our exile years building something new, something better than the stagnant civilization you call harmony. Images of the artificial worlds and advanced civilizations hidden in the void appeared on screens across the galaxy. Viewers saw cities that floated in mid-air through gravitational control, space stations that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and fleets of ships that moved between stars as easily as ancient vehicles had moved between cities. The Galactic Council's greatest fear has become reality. We have not simply survived our exile. We have used it to become everything they tried to prevent. We are stronger, more advanced, and more unified than any civilization in galactic history. The transmission ended with a simple declaration that sent shockwaves through every Council world: the age of forced harmony is over. A new galactic order begins now. The response was immediate chaos. Member worlds demanded explanations from their Council representatives. Military commanders called for immediate mobilization. Scientists desperately tried to understand the technologies displayed in the transmission. How do we fight an enemy that can manipulate spacetime itself? Admiral Korthval asked during the emergency strategy session. Our weapons cannot hit targets that can teleport away from incoming fire. Our defenses are useless against gravitational attacks that ignore physical barriers. We need allies, Chancellor Vextar decided. Contact every major power outside Council space. Offer whatever concessions necessary to form a united front against this exile threat. But the alliance-building efforts failed before they began. Many galactic civilizations had their own exiled populations who had presumably joined the Exile Alliance. Others saw the Council's panic as an opportunity to demand territorial concessions or favorable trade agreements. Most significantly, several major powers openly declared their support for the exile cause. The Stellar Federation recognizes the sovereign rights of the Exile Alliance, announced Federation President Helix during his public statement. We have long questioned the Galactic Council's practice of exiling species for the crime of achievement and innovation. Similar declarations came from a dozen other major civilizations. The galaxy was fracturing along ideological lines, with established powers choosing sides based on their own experiences with Council authority. The first direct assault on Council territory came without warning. The planet Nexus Prime, seat of galactic government and home to over 40 billion inhabitants, simply disappeared from all sensor networks. One moment, the massive world was visible on long-range scans. The next, it was gone, leaving behind empty space and confused radiation signatures. Impossible, Dr. Velnash stammered as he studied the sensor data. An entire planet cannot simply vanish. The energy requirements would exceed the output of multiple stellar cores. Unless you can manipulate space-time itself, Admiral Korthval replied grimly. They've somehow moved our capital world to an unknown location. The truth was even more disturbing. Nexus Prime hadn't been destroyed, it had been relocated to a pocket dimension controlled by Exile Alliance technology. The planet's inhabitants were unharmed but effectively imprisoned in a space that existed outside normal reality. Fleet Commander Rodriguez appeared on the communications channels exactly 24 hours after the planet's disappearance. Her message was brief and devastating in its simplicity. Nexus Prime is under our protection in a secure dimensional space. The planet and its inhabitants are unharmed. They will remain our guests until the Galactic Council agrees to formal negotiations regarding the future structure of galactic civilization. We will not negotiate with terrorists, Chancellor Vextar responded during his public broadcast. The Council demands the immediate return of Nexus Prime and all its inhabitants. You're in no position to make demands, Rodriguez replied calmly. You have approximately 72 hours to reconsider your position. If you refuse to negotiate, we will begin relocating other Council worlds to our dimensional archives. Starting with the Saurian homeworld. The threat was not idle. Long-range sensors detected massive Exile Alliance fleets moving through space using their impossible teleportation technology. Ships appeared and disappeared at will, making it impossible for Council forces to mount any effective defense. How many worlds can they relocate? Gorth AK asked during the crisis meeting. All of them, Velnash replied quietly. If they can move Nexus Prime, they can move any planet in the galaxy. We're facing technology that makes our civilization obsolete. The surrender came exactly 71 hours later. Chancellor Vextar's crystalline form had lost much of its usual brilliance as he made the announcement that ended 8,000 years of Council authority. The Galactic Council hereby acknowledges the sovereignty of the Exile Alliance and requests formal negotiations to establish a new galactic government structure. The negotiations took place in neutral space aboard a massive station constructed by Exile Alliance technology. The structure existed partially in normal space and partially in the pocket dimensions where displaced Council worlds waited in temporal suspension. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now bearing the title of Alliance Chief Diplomat, led the exile delegation. Age and responsibility had changed her, but the determination that had defined humanity's response to exile remained evident in every word she spoke. The old system failed, she announced during the opening ceremony. The Harmony Protocols created stagnation masquerading as peace. Species were punished for innovation and growth. The galaxy's potential was artificially limited by fear of change. The negotiations established a new galactic order based on principles that the old council would have considered dangerous. Technological advancement was encouraged rather than restricted. Territorial expansion was limited only by the ability to develop and defend new worlds. Most importantly, no species would be exiled for the crime of exceeding imposed limitations. The new Galactic Confederation will be governed by achievement rather than artificial quotas, Chen explained. Species that contribute to galactic civilization through innovation, exploration, or cultural advancement will have proportional influence in Confederation decisions. The former Council powers found themselves relegated to junior partnership status in the new government. Their thousands of years of political dominance had ended with the emergence of civilizations that refused to accept limitation. But the greatest change was philosophical. The Exile Alliance had proven that adversity could be transformed into advantage, that punishment could become opportunity, and that the species declared too dangerous for galactic civilization could become its salvation. We were exiled for being too aggressive, too innovative, too unwilling to accept restrictions, Admiral Rodriguez observed during the final ceremony. Those same qualities allowed us to build something better than what we left behind. The pocket dimensions containing displaced Council worlds were restored to normal space, but the political landscape had changed permanently. The age of enforced harmony had ended, replaced by an era of competitive advancement and unlimited potential. Humanity had transformed there.